Welcome to the What, Why, and How Can I podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are talking from a gentleman who is actually in Sydney, Australia. Sydney, Australia today. He's on a 2-week quarantine, getting ready to go to work. But first, you got to make sure he's clear, coming from the States. So welcome, Andre.
Thank you.
Yes, it's a pleasure. And like we talked a little bit already, there is a large audience and a big interest in aviation, in people who have aviation experience and not particularly fly airplanes, but mechanics, like airplane mechanics, people who work on the airplanes. And so honestly, super excited to have you on because a lot of those viewers have a lot of questions. And you having a prior military background, I think is going to be very beneficial for them. They really want to know, like, hey, how does my military background transfer to civilian life? What can I do with it? So I guess we could just start with the basics. What it is you do. You can kind of talk about maybe what you're working on right now, and then we could jump back and kind of go through your career, and you can share all your experience, kind of your qualifications, how you got them, how they helped you, and maybe answer some of those questions.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right now, like you said, I'm in Australia, stuck in this hotel for 2 weeks. We can't get out, and they bring us food 3 times a day. So I guess that's the most exciting thing about this whole 2 weeks. It's pretty sad, but the views are nice at least. I've been in aviation for 11 years, 12 years almost.
Mm-hmm.
Since 2010. So yeah, 11 years. And I've loved it. I've done a lot of stuff. And currently I'm in Australia working on registering airplanes from US registration to Australian registration. And it's a long process of just paperwork and inspection and just making sure their side, like their FAA, which is the Federal Administration for Aviation, they can basically okay these airplanes to register for their country, and then all we do is we're going to support the airplanes here for the future.
Okay, so first question is why? Why is this necessary? Is Australia buying American airplanes, or what's going on?
Yes, they're buying them. That's why they're. We originally bought them. I work for Colson Aviation, which is a Canadian company. So I don't even work for a U.S. company, but we have a U.S. location in San Bernardino, California. So we give the airplanes to Australia right now, and they're going to be working with them over here for their fire and flooding.
Okay, so I'm assuming they're getting ready. Hopefully that won't happen again, but last year they did have those crazy fires in Australia.
Yeah, well, the company's been around since after World War II. And they were in forestry. And until the 70s, they were only in forestry. Then they got into aviation. The specific airplane I work on is less than a year old for them. So it's a new mission of mainly surveillance. We provide maps for them with this aircraft. But they've been here for a while. And they actually lost an airplane. What was it, last year during the fires.
Wow. Okay, awesome. So mostly on on pretty much fire planes, I guess?
They have airplanes anywhere from 737s, which is a big, small airliner that Southwest uses. They have helicopters, and now they have these small little private jets that I work on, and these ones are mostly for maps.
Okay, topography and stuff like that. Okay, well, honestly, that's interesting. I know you have a family, and sounds like you probably don't see them. You definitely don't see them, maybe FaceTime and stuff like that. But so if I don't know if you want to give them a shout out, they'll be watching this.
Yeah, they're not too happy because this started off as a 1-month trip. Now it's a 2-month trip. So, but it's all good. I was home for almost 2 months before this, getting paid while I'm at home. So I guess kind of evens out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, daddy will come home and the fun will continue. So
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, let's jump back all the way to 2010, I want to say, is when you joined the military. And just the process, maybe why you decided to go the military route instead of the civilian route to get into aviation. Let's start there.
Okay. Well, actually, aviation, the interest started back when I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
or in, I guess, late middle school, just playing flight simulator, and I always wanted to be a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And I legitimately looked into flight schools, looked how much they cost, and then realized it's too expensive. I would have to take out loans, and I didn't want to do that. And I've always, kind of tinkered on cars, bicycles, little things, just mechanically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a cousin that was in the military in 2009 that when he came to visit us in Sacramento on his vacation, we hung out. And long story short, he kind of convinced me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't regret it because, I mean, I have this job now. And luckily for me, I actually got to travel with the military because a lot of people join the military and they think they're going to travel. And then they go to like Little Rock, Arkansas, which
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, still outside of California. So sure, you travel, or Minot, North Dakota, where it gets -70 in the winter. I
Yeah.
mean, most people don't want to stay in long after that. I
Right.
got to go to Germany, all over Europe, Middle East. So I got to do some traveling, and yeah, I mean, it was a fun ride. Now I'm in the reserves,
Uh-huh.
and just doing part time. Show up 1 weekend a month, and still do maintenance stuff. But in the process of trying to commission and become a pilot and an officer in the military, if everything works out.
Okay. First question is now you're in the reserves. You're away for 2 months. How can you make up for the fact that you won't be there 1 month?
Yes, I had to actually get a letter written up so the commander approves,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm able to reschedule as needed. Like
Okay.
right now, I'm gone 2 months in a row, so I'm gonna reschedule all of that for August when I'm home.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's
Uh,
not a big deal.
oh, okay, nice. Next question is what is commission, and what are you going to be doing in the military as a pilot?
Commission is just a fancy word of saying you're going to become an officer. Is the
Okay.
process of becoming an officer,
Okay.
and I would like to fly fighter jets, F-16s that I used to work on, but my wife isn't really for that, so I'll have to settle for flying maybe a cargo airplane.
Cargo airplanes, or I heard refueling airplanes are fun. We had a guy on here
Huh.
that he was a refueler. Oh.
Yeah, that's definitely an option. I think it's a little bit harder to get into that because of their mission.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend from college that actually finished his flight school for active duty to fly the new tanker that the military has.
Okay.
So, I mean, he's enjoying it. He's flying the newest airplane the military has right now, so
Yeah, I bet probably
getting paid well.
the bathrooms are really clean still.
That's still the military. It's not that fancy.
Okay, so high school, middle school, you were interested in aviation. Your cousin decided or convinced you to do the military route. Let's go. Let's go from there.
Yeah, so basically, I went and found a recruiter, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I kind of wanted to do aviation, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how much jobs are out there. I don't know about other branches, but the Air Force has over 180 different jobs,
Wow.
and they have that for the sole purpose of you're straight out of high school most of the time. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have a lot of experience, and they have a like even as a mechanic on the airplanes in the military, you don't do everything. Like my title is crew chief.
Mm-hmm.
I basically change tires, do inspections, minor maintenance. But if there's like an electrical issue,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times the electricians do it. If there's a hydraulic issue, the hydraulic guys do it. If there's some sheet
The
metal,
hydrologicians.
yeah, we just call them hydro.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, it's very is the word just not micromanaged, but it's broken apart. So you're not responsible for the whole thing.
So you're not a jack of all trades, master of none. You're actually a master of
Yeah,
the trade that you do.
yeah, and that way there's less accidents, I guess, in
Mm-hmm.
your job. I'm more talking about the maintenance side, but I mean they have finance. They actually have guys that work in the burial service in the military.
Oh
That's a
wow.
job
Okay.
title. So I
Okay.
mean there's different jobs out there.
Mm-hmm.
I just happen to get into maintenance, and it's very easy to get into maintenance because no one wants to, because people do their first contract and then get out because it's long hours.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start doing, how much you're actually getting paid per hour, there's times you're maybe getting less than $5 an hour just because you're working.
In the military.
Yes, I think my first paychecks were about 900 every 2 weeks,
Uh-huh.
which is all right when you're single living in the dorms. But when you're working 70, 80, 90-hour weeks, sometimes, you can't really spend it on anything because you're always at work.
Yeah.
But I guess having this job really set me up for being more optimistic about any job I
Mm-hmm.
have. Because if I have to work long hours here, they pay me more, you know.
Yeah.
So I guess I can put up with more because I had this crappy job starting off.
It's not going to be as bad as what you had first.
Oh, for sure. So like while I was there in Germany working 12, 15-hour shifts, I mean it sucked, but now I'm at home sometimes for months at a time, relaxing and still getting paid. So I guess it kind of paid off in the
Yeah, yeah,
end.
yeah. No, that's for sure, dude. And you're getting paid more than a teacher, probably. Yeah.
Probably.
So, okay, so you were in the military. You became a mechanic there. Did they have you? Did they certify you in any way in the military for different types of things, or how did that happen?
Yes. When you get out of boot camp, you usually go to tech
Mm-hmm.
school. That's what the Air Force calls it. Other branches have other names. But you basically go to follow on training. And depending what your job is, the training can be a month. It can be half a year. I mean, pilots have a 2-year flight school, 2 to 3
Mm-hmm.
years. So, depends how much you actually have to know and do, they train you more. And after that, it's all on the job training. So with me, I did, I think 6 months, maybe a little less. It's just basic maintenance. Here's a
Mm-hmm.
wrench, here's a screwdriver, here's the stuff you need to know what's on the airplane you're working on. Not every airplane, but just the one I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on. And from there, you go to your first base and just start working and learning from the people that are there.
Okay, so are there how many different types of airplanes are there to for you to work on? Do they assign you how did you pick an airplane that you wanted to work on? How did that happen?
Yeah, in the military, you pick your job and you pick um, you pick your job and then you pick your first base. But they call it a dream sheet for a reason because you might not get what you
Mm-hmm.
want. So you put the top 5 jobs you would want to have, first being your favorite one, the last one being, worst case scenario
Mm-hmm.
job. Same thing with bases. And it's wherever they need you, really.
Okay.
So some people get lucky, go overseas and see the world. Some people go to like Kansas
And see
and
that world,
see the
see the
corn.
corn and cows.
Oh, it's definitely flat.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. Okay, so you said you learn on the job. In the when you're in the military, are they thinking about like, hey, we're gonna train you in this and this is gonna be beneficial for you when you get out? Or are they just not certifying you in anything, just training you? You're pretty much trained in the Air Force, and you technically won't be able to take any certs outside the Air Force when you come out. How does like explain that kind of situation or scenario?
Um, in a nutshell, the U.S. military is a job like any other
Mm-hmm.
job. Me coming from a Slavic background, like my dad, for instance, he was a little confused how everything
Mm-hmm.
works. And when I showed him my dorms, he said their officers didn't live so nice. And I didn't live in like the nicest dorms. It was just, a little one-bedroom apartment, nothing fancy, no
Yeah.
kitchen. But it's definitely day and night difference between like the Soviet military. Here it's a job. Once you're out of school and once you're at your first base, whether you're single or you have a family with
Hmm.
you, after you're done with your shift for the day, you can do whatever you want. You can go hang out, you know, with your family on the weekends. If there's no work, you can go on vacation. But when you're in the military, if you're traveling past a certain distance, you have to do a request for vacation, and basically they just need to know if something happens, where you are. But you can travel. Like it's a regular job. That was like the biggest thing people were asking me when I was in Germany. It's like, oh, so how are things over there? I'm like, well, today I'm in Sweden because the weekend, because I can.
Yeah.
It wasn't that far. Like I think it was like 20 there for the weekend. Luxembourg was 45 minutes away. So once you're out of your done for the day,
Hmm.
you're basically free. And the other thing about the military is their mission is to keep the mission going. So they only train you in your job so you can be better at it. You can take training outside, and later on I'll explain how being a mechanic in the military can benefit you and save time to become a mechanic on the outside.
Okay. So you were in the military. I think you mentioned 4 years, and all of those 4 years you were just straight up day in day out mechanic, right?
Yes.
Okay. Day in day out mechanic. You decided to leave the military, or your contract expired in 4 years.
Contract expired.
Contract expired. You didn't renew it, and then how did you went into the civilian world? What were your next steps? A lot of the questions we had was like, hey, I was a mechanic in the military. How do I go find a job in aviation? An aviation mechanic out when I'm done with military. How do I need to get other certifications, even though I have all this prior experience?
Well, for me, it was just asking because my last base, I was working out in DFW area in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of reservists working with me. So there were civilians Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I asked them how they got their license, and I went from there. And if you have, well, this was back in 2014. I don't know how it's now,
Mm-hmm.
but it's probably similar. If you have at least 3 years hands-on aviation experience, you have to look at your job title. But if you have some, I think even guys that do sheet metal can do this as well. Basically, you have to go to the FISDO, which is the guy that works for the FAA.
Mm-hmm.
You bring all your training you have for the military, and then they look it over.
Mm-hmm.
And if you meet the criteria, I think the 3 years and a certain number of training,
Mm-hmm.
they basically give you a ticket, which is a piece of paper saying, hey, you can go take these tests, and you have 2 years to get them done.
Okay, so
And
you can take these tests without any additional like school or whatever, right?
yeah, I mean, basically, yes, they're a little hard without studying because, like I said earlier, when you're in the military, you're really focused only on your job. Like, I've never done any big engine modifications or sheet metal before ever in my life, but this test tests you on everything.
Okay.
So there's prep schools you can go to. I think I paid 900 for mine,
Mm-hmm.
and basically you pay 900 bucks. They give you all the books to study for it, and the guy that does the schools has an airplane of his own, which is a requirement for them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any questions, you can go to this. It's a small site, Cessna airplane. I think 152 or 150.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically, if you have any questions, he helps you out, shows what the components are on the airplane, and kind of helps you. It's like a crash course.
Okay. So how long is this prep school?
It's a 2 week thing. There's people that do it a lot faster. I mean, if you just have because it's a two-part test to get your A&P license.
Mm-hmm.
It's airframe and power plant license. And basically, the first part is three computer tests. I think they're like 100 questions each.
Mm-hmm.
After you're done with those, you take your oral and practical, which is more questions. The instructor asks you the question. So it was a little intimidating the first time I took it because it's easier when you do it on a computer, just fill in the blank. But when someone's asking you and you're trying to remember,
Yeah.
it's a little hard. And then you have the practical where he takes you out on an airplane and asks you to do a certain number of tasks. And if you come straight from the military and you haven't seen anything else, it is kind of hard. So that's why the prep school helps you out. At least you're familiar with the aircraft.
Okay. So it's not some random aircraft. The test isn't like on a random aircraft that you haven't prepped for.
No, the test is geared, whether you go the civilian route and just go to the school, or you do this after the military, the test is geared to push people on general aviation, which is small propeller airplanes.
Okay.
So there's nothing on the test that like a 747 has or a fighter jet. There's no stuff about afterburners or anything like that. So it's very basic.
Okay.
And yeah, that's just basically it.
Okay, awesome. So what's been your favorite airplane to work on? I know you worked on F-16s, you worked on Cessnas. What's the most complicated? What's the most fun? What do you like the most?
Still the F-16. That thing it's like a bee. It's not meant to fly, but somehow it flies.
Yeah.
But now I work on C5s in the reserves, and it's the biggest airplane the Air Force has, second to the Ukrainian Antonov 225.
Wow, really? So what do you work on the C5s?
Still a mechanic, just same stuff I did on the F-16, but now on a different aircraft.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so you did your prep school, got your A&P license, right? A&P license. What was your next step? You got your A&P license. What did you do with that? Did you start applying with a bunch of resumes? Did you know somebody prior that had some kind of experience in the job you're at now? How did that happen?
I knew a few people that were A&Ps as civilians, but none of them were in my area. I moved to Sacramento at the time, and I basically just applied. I applied to every job, went there in person, drove around a lot, and eventually, after a year, got a job.
So it took you a year of applying and interviewing to get a job?
Yes.
Wow.
Within that year, I actually volunteered at a SAC executive at a small airport over there. And it was all for free. I worked 8 hours a day on a Friday and got a nice recommendation letter. Like I worked there for 7 months, but even though I was only there 1 day a week. But because I didn't have any experience on civilian aircraft at all, it was really hard for me to get hired. And also, like, I wanted to get more money, basically. So I guess I stayed away from some companies.
Yeah.
But like, I know you interviewed someone in McClellan. They work people over there a lot, and a lot of people quit and went to Cessna because Cessna pays more. But before, Cessna wouldn't take you unless you have at least 3 years experience.
What about
and they didn't?
And now they changed that?
Oh, now they hire just anybody. And it's good and bad.
I can definitely imagine why it's bad.
Yeah, the talent isn't there.
Yeah.
But if you want, like, it's a good name on your resume if you work for Cessna. It's same thing as Gulfstream, Boeing, all those other big names. So it looks good. I enjoyed it. It was a great experience for me. But it was just another stepping stone I needed to get somewhere else. And same thing as this job. As much as I like it, I don't think I can do this for too long.
Right, traveling all the time. So does Cessna have like a huge facility out in Sacramento, or do they just have like a maintenance facility?
They have a maintenance facility. It's pretty big. It's when you enter the airport, it's going to be on your left side.
Okay, I know exactly. Across by that waiting area, across from Arco.
Okay. Yeah, there's actually a private terminal over there where all private jets come over,
Mm-hmm.
but we're just maintenance. So like sometimes airplanes came into our hangar on accident and then had to turn around
Okay.
because they just see other airplanes, so they just taxi there.
Okay. How long did you work for Cessna?
A little over 5 years.
Okay, so you got your AMP license, applied for a year, got with Cessna, worked for Cessna for 5 years. Did you get any additional certs while working for Cessna?
Um, Not really. They only sent me to one school for one of their airplanes when I went to Wichita, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't that great at training.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of schools. Like the company provides a lot of schools, but for some reason they weren't that good at the location I was at,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't send too much people to schools.
Okay,
I mean, I took what I got, so it was cool.
if I had to guess, it's probably like they're just trying to find a couple guys, get them good at what they're doing, and just
Hmm.
have them there day in day out. So
Yeah,
what
exactly.
what made you want to kind of do something else besides just working at Cessna?
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of things. I actually got my engineering degree, mechanical engineering, in 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and I was applying everywhere, like right before the pandemic, like August of 2019. Applied
You were
everywhere.
working for Cessna and you were in school?
Yes, I was in school full time, working full time with overtime,
That's
and
crazy.
somehow made it happen. Eventually, I had to finish up the last 2 years online.
Mm-hmm.
I found a school I could still do my engineering program. I had enough classes to transfer, so that helped out. But yeah, that's the main reason I wanted to leave because Cessna at that location wasn't going to pay me any extra money for having a degree, and
Mm-hmm.
they had no engineering positions in Sacramento.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're working at Cessna, and I bet you there's a bunch of other people that maybe work at a facility or maybe for another company, and they're stuck in that same position. How did you come across the opportunity that you're at now?
LinkedIn,
Literally.
yeah,
Okay, so go out
LinkedIn,
there if you're interested and you want to know one, go make a LinkedIn account,
yeah,
and
no, for
then
sure.
that's crazy. Okay, so did you come across a feed? Let's talk about those details. And the reason, and maybe for some people, I'm being asking for too much details, but at the same
Hmm.
time, there's people out there that are like going through those exact steps and just really
Hmm.
want to know. They wish they could talk to you. So I'm trying, even though I'm not somebody in the aviation career, I'm trying to kind of just hopefully I'm asking all the right questions.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, and you're based out of Sacramento, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's two schools I know of if you're not military and you just want to go. Sac City has a really good program for what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if it's a 2 or 3 year program, and you're basically going there full time. So if you're gonna do this, you're not gonna be able to do other classes. Like
Okay.
if you want a degree, like this is gonna be your only thing. You do that for 2 or 3 years, and then you get your license. And there's one in Solano, I think in Solano, somewhere in Vacaville. There's another school over there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two schools I know. So if someone wants to go just straight, civilian route without going to the military,
Okay.
that's how it works. And from there, you just do the same thing. Apply. Like networking is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get out of the fast food industry, networking is big. I mean,
Yeah.
I've worked there, no shame.
Right.
Uh,
Hey, my first job was Papa John's, so
oh man, I was Taco Bell.
hey, Taco Bell is a big hit for the Slavs in Sacramento.
Oh, it was. There was a lot of them there. Now
Yeah.
they're all gone from the location I was at.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, what was that at? It's networking is important.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, I've always had it updated, but until I got my degree, that's when I really went in and updated my information on there. Kind of talked to friends that have a legit LinkedIn account, not just a picture or their name,
Yeah.
and just did that. And I still got to update a few things. But what happened is a lot of people reach out to you and most of them were mechanic jobs. Like not a lot of engineering companies would reach out to me, so I really didn't care. And after about a year of applying to hundreds of jobs, literally,
Mm-hmm.
like not just in California and different states, I had a few interviews, just kind of getting frustrated, not getting a job.
As a
So
mechanical engineer.
yes,
Okay.
and I looked at other options, not just working on airplanes. Like there was companies that do engine work in what was that, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I looked everywhere. So kind of after getting frustrated for not finding a job for over a year, and I guess all it helps when you have a career already to like nothing was really pushing me to get another job because I was making decent money.
Right.
And so after about a year, kind of gave up. I'm like, ah, it's fine. I'll just take a little break, applying a little bit. Plus, during the pandemic, you can't reach anybody. Like,
No, but none of the
you
offices
can't
are
go in
working. Yeah.
person. Yeah, that's the biggest issue. Like, when I applied for Cessna, I walked in person, talked to the manager, shook their hand. But right now, like, it's impossible to reach anybody trying to find numbers. And this company reached out on LinkedIn, like many others.
Mm-hmm.
And what caught my eye is 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Like you're working for 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
you're home for 2 weeks. I mean, that was a complete lie, but I am home a pretty good amount of time.
It's more like 2 months on,
Yeah,
2 months off.
it's been so wild. Like I started in right after Christmas last year,
Uh-huh.
and what did I do? They told me you're going to Canada for a week, get on an airplane ready to Chile. A month and a half later, I'm finally going home. I'm like, all right. So I get home and they're like, you're home for a week and then you got to go to Chile. I ended up
Yeah.
being home for a month. So just like no consistency. So, but it's all good. It's definitely an experience because you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Um, they hire mechanics and electricians and any aviation
Mm-hmm.
experience to this company, but you have to have experience on certain model airplane or helicopter.
Okay.
So they don't just hire anybody, which is kind of nice because when you're by yourself, you really need to know the aircraft and need to be able to work by yourself and figure things out.
So
I
you're
mean,
you're working alone on one aircraft, or you have other mechanics working with you?
well, there's more people in the building, but I'm responsible for this airplane.
Gotcha. Wow, that's
Like
crazy,
right
dude.
now, we have 3 airplanes right now that we're responsible for in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
While I'm in quarantine, the other mechanic's working there, so he's gonna leave when I get out of quarantine.
Okay.
But basically, he has experience on these. He has experience on a lot of airplanes, but he also knows these.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they hired him. And as mechanics, we get a lot of support, like engineering support, structural. So like there's contact numbers we have that we can, if we have an issue with the aircraft we can't figure out,
Mm-hmm.
we can call the engineers and tell them like, hey, here's this issue we're having. What do you guys know about this?
Okay.
So it's kind of nice, there's some backup. But
That is nice. Yeah, you don't have to like Google stuff or YouTube videos.
yeah, they don't really have much, DIYs for aviation.
Yeah.
I
Thank
think they
God.
should.
Hey, no, thank God they don't, dude. Because a lot of people would be Jimmy rigging a bunch of stuff, and
Oh
we want to
man.
keep aviation safe. So.
Yeah, the biggest difference between like aviation mechanics and like automotive mechanics
Mm-hmm.
is we
There's no aftermarket parts.
there. Well, in a way, there are aftermarket parts because
Yeah.
like sometimes you can get a cheaper item, but there's no. You can't just fix your own airplane at home.
Gotcha.
Like no matter like, I mean, there's a lot of airplanes you can buy for under 30,000.
Mm-hmm.
They're not that great, but they're small airplanes. They'll get you from A to B.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do your own oil change, you can do your own stuff. But the problem in aviation is there has to be paperwork on everything. So if you change your own oil, someone that's licensed has to sign it off. I mean, you can do it yourself as long as you have someone sign it off for you
Yeah,
that the
yeah.
oil was changed, it's tightened. There's a lot of backup, I guess, there's a lot of backup paperwork for safety.
Like double checking, triple checking stuff.
hmm Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of times, like when I worked at Cessna, we had whenever I wanted to install a panel or a wheel or anything, A mechanic had to go look, make sure it's good to install. Like an example, if you're installing a
Mm-hmm.
wheel assembly, there's obviously brakes before there. So the inspector checks, make sure the brakes are good, everything's good. Then I can put on the wheel. After the wheel is on, the inspector comes and checks that it got installed correctly. At my current job, I'm the mechanic and I'm the inspector. So the responsibility is that much more.
Yes.
You can't be making crazy mistakes out here by yourself. I mean, there's other people around you, but no one's going to come and check after you unless you want them.
Yeah.
But so it's,
That,
kind of, it was intimidating at first, but, I've been doing this for 11 years and you kind of get used to it. I mean, it's all part of your job. I mean, there's people that have more stressful jobs than me and, they have to do it every day. It's just how it is.
yeah. I can imagine, dude. What's the biggest mistake you've done so far, or you've had so far?
Put oil where fuel's supposed to go and fuel where oil's supposed to go.
How did that happen?
um, I blame myself, but I blame the lack of training.
Uh-huh.
So I just started at Cessna. It wasn't anything big. I mean, it was just a waste of fuel, and they had to clean the filters.
Okay.
So as far as aircraft damage, nothing crazy. It
Nobody
was just
was
a
nobody was hurt.
oh, nobody was hurt in my mistake.
Yeah.
Just my pride. So yeah. Anyways, I was told to go connect some engine lines on the engine. The engine got hung,
Mm-hmm.
installed, and I just had to go connect stuff. So the fuel and the oil, or the fuel and the hydraulic hoses, were the exact same size, exact same color, and they were right next to each other. And the way they were set up, I somehow swapped them.
Mm.
So luckily, there's a lot of safety checks. I mean, I'm sure it's like that on cars. You don't just install an engine and start driving.
Yeah.
So when they went out to purge the fuel line, because if you're just gonna start it, you're gonna have a hot start. I mean, I've done that on the car. You have to purge the line. Like if there's just air and you have combustion, you're gonna have some issues.
Yeah.
So they purged the fuel line, and when fuel was supposed to come out, they saw something darker than fuel. That's when they figured out what happened. So like they didn't
Okay.
start the engine. I mean, it's a stupid mistake. It was definitely, never repeated that.
Yeah.
Uh, but I guess after that, the only issues I had was maybe forgetting a screw on a panel, like nothing serious.
Okay. So, like moving forward, how can you tell the difference now between those lines, even though they're the same size and the same color?
Every fuel line, let me just say, every fluid line has a label on them,
Mm-hmm.
and these labels just over the years came off. So if I
Okay.
looked inside the pylon, they were on there. That's how you can tell.
Okay. Gotcha.
So everything, I guess, is like idiot proof, but sometimes the idiots get a little clever.
Sometimes the idiots come with a little capital letter, so
Oh yeah, man.
yeah,
But I guess in 11 years, if that's the worst thing I've done, that's not too bad. I mean,
that's not bad at all, actually. I mean,
man,
that's the mistake you want to make. You want to make the mistake
yeah.
that doesn't let the airplane lift. Because if the mistake allows the airplane lift, but then it can't land or something else ridiculous,
Well,
that's
we had that where gear wouldn't come up or gear wouldn't come down. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happened while I worked there,
uh-huh.
and just hearing stories. I mean, right now we're in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
and they towed an airplane to the hangar, left it outside, no chocks around the wheels, and walked away. Next thing you know, this thing is nose first into the hangar.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, that's a multi-million-dollar mistake
Yeah. And the and
because
and the sad part is just throw some like you don't have chocks, throw a piece of wood under the wheels.
yeah, I mean that's all it is. I mean, we have all that stuff, so like it can go that bad, and that airplane it hit. Yeah, basically, it can go bad really fast in aviation and very expensive.
Yeah, I can only imagine, man. Okay, so now you're working for this company that services more than just a single airplane. The services all or is it just fire airplanes
Uh,
or
Yes, they have two or three helicopter types,
Mm-hmm.
and right now two aircraft types.
Okay.
So they service fire in California right now. The airplane I work on didn't get a contract there, so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm not in California right now. But the helicopters are there putting out fires. They're all over the place. Right now, we're working on a Brazil contract,
Okay.
so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that would be fun, dude. As long as you're not in Venezuela or Cuba or something,
Yeah,
something,
I don't think.
something a little bit too crazy right there. Okay, so
Yeah.
overall, how do you like your job now? I mean, besides the fact that you're traveling.
I love it. Um, I've always been mechanically inclined and just messed around, so it's fun. And when they pay you well for it, it's also good. I just don't see myself doing this till I retire, just because it's a manual job
Mm-hmm.
and it does wear out on you. I mean, like I've looked at with that are close to retirement, and they basically do the same thing I'm doing now, but they're a lot older and it's a lot harder for them to do. So it's like it reaches a point where the money is not worth it,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to have your health.
And a
Not to
life.
discourage people from doing it,
Yeah.
it's just like that for me. I mean, I hurt my back about 8 years ago. If I would say it's 99% recovered,
Mm-hmm.
but with age, I'm sure I'll start feeling it. So it's one of
Right.
those things where like you're constantly in awkward positions, removing heavy things, and yeah, I just don't see myself doing this till I retire. But right now, I enjoy it. I could probably do it for another maybe 5, 10 years, but I think I'll reach my limit then.
Okay. So when are you planning to go back into the military for full time as a pilot, or is that dependent on kind of when you finish all your officer classes and all that stuff?
So basically, right now, I'm trying to build a package
Mm-hmm.
so I can apply. You have to apply like a regular job, and then um, they look at your resume, what you have done. They prefer you have some private license.
Mm-hmm.
So if I won't have any luck trying to get a job without having any flight experience, I think I'm gonna go get my private license and then try to apply again. And it's all dependent on my qualifications and if they need people. Right now is kind of, I guess, a bad time to do it because a lot of airliners laid off their pilots,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of these pilots are going back to the military reserves.
Okay.
So, I mean, when someone has, a few thousand hours on a commercial airliner that wants to go back versus someone like me, they're obviously going to take that person because they don't have to train him other than specifics for that aircraft.
Right. That's pretty
So
cool. I mean, it totally makes sense, but at the same time, like I would rather have a pilot like yourself that knows these airplanes in and out, knows how the mechanics on an airplane works. You just feel more confident, you know?
yeah, from my experience, we had quite a few squadron commanders that were prior mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
and they definitely see the whole mission of that aircraft differently than someone that just is a pilot. So I mean, it's definitely a good benefit, but we'll see. I mean, I want a commission just so I can use my degree.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's one option since I can't really find any engineering jobs right now, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
If I commission that way, you need at least a bachelor's to become an officer in the military.
Mm-hmm.
So I figure at least use it that way.
Okay, yeah, that's nice. So, what would you recommend if somebody's trying to look into aviation? What are the pros and cons of going the civilian route? What are the pros and cons of going the military route?
Going the military route is your school is paid for
Mm-hmm.
because they send you to school. You don't learn as much as you do. Well, it depends how long you stay in, but you don't learn as much as you would going the civilian route in the school. But um, it only took me about 6 months to get my license
Mm-hmm.
after the military
Mm-hmm.
because it took a few times to pass the tests. But So 6 months compared to 2 to 3 years, it was worth it for me. But that being said, I already spent 4 years in the military. So if I went the civilian route, sure, I would have paid. I mean, it's not expensive at Sac City or any community college. I would have had to pay myself,
Mm-hmm.
but I would have had my license for at least a year or two by the time compared to if I went how I did.
Right.
So it all depends how early you want to do it. For me, like most high school kids, I mean, they tell you to, get out of high school, go to college, get a degree, and then what? I mean, there's more out there than just getting a degree. Not to diminish, people with degrees,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot you can do. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I said, screw it, let me join the military. At least, you get a guaranteed paycheck when you get out. I mean, you get discounts at Home Depot. Well,
I mean, even for that, it's worth it's all. It makes it all worth it. And I think restaurants give you military discounts too. So, oh,
yeah, sometimes.
Disneyland.
Oh man, yeah. For me, the biggest reason I joined is I wanted to go into aviation, but I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career. Like, I knew I wanted to maybe get an engineering degree, but I didn't know when. So, like, I took 1 semester of college actually
Mm-hmm.
after high school, and then kind of dropped out and went to the military. And 4 years later, I was back with the degree. So I still ended up getting the degree,
Mm-hmm.
but that was just because I already knew what I wanted versus just go to college and quick figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Right. And
I
I
mean, life.
I agree
Go
with you
ahead.
100%. I wish high schools offered like some kind of like classes like ROPs. You know how they have ROPs? Like
Hmm.
for example, Oakmont had a great medical program. Like if you want to become a nurse,
Yeah.
they had all that stuff. I wish high schools maybe say for example, we were all in the Roseville Unified School District. Each high school maybe has a different type of ROP, aviation, this, that, and maybe you can choose your high school based on the ROP that you want to go to, And that would help students make up their minds much, much quicker, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know too much about how the high school system's set up, but they definitely do a disservice when it comes to trying to help kids figure out what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not even do for the rest of their life, but like, what do they want to do? What if they want to be an entrepreneur? What if they want to be a day trader,
Mm-hmm.
mechanic, have their own podcast, start their own business? I mean, there's so much options out there, but they limit you to go to college, basically get in debt, and good luck out
They
there.
limit you to a loan. Whatever you do, go get a
Yeah,
loan.
basically. Yeah, get a loan. Hey, you're finally an adult.
Okay.
Now welcome to debt.
Okay. Anything else you would say to somebody, to a student looking to get into aviation, get into any unexpected things that you've seen or came across? Like, whoa, way too much money.
Yeah, don't do it. They pay too much. Um, you definitely work a lot of long
Uh
hours
huh.
and a lot of times in the elements, meaning, you might have a hangar, but there's no AC or there's no heater. So this isn't like you're definitely going to be cold often and be sweating as well. It's a manual labor job. You have to enjoy it like anything.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely companies that pay really well for aviation mechanics. Sometimes you got to get the experience to get there. Sometimes you just got to just network and know people.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to spend a lot of time at work. And I guess that's in a way why I'm trying to get away from it, being a mechanic, get a little bit more free time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, dude,
But I
two
mean,
months at home, that's a lot of free time.
yeah, I mean, it's nice. My current schedule is supposed to be 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off stateside, and then 4 on, 4 off overseas. But with COVID and we had two people, one quit, one got fired. So we're kind of struggling right now. We only have two mechanics. It's me and the other guy. And there's what, 5 airplanes? Two of them are in Canada right now, three of them are here. So it's a little tough, But yeah, I mean, being home for even 2 weeks at a time is nice because you can take care of a lot of stuff. You can go on road trips with your family if you want. You're not like limited, like, oh man, how much vacation time I have. So while this job is temporary, I'm definitely learning a lot about my job and also enjoying the free time so I can work on side things while I'm at home.
Right.
Because I mean, it's hard to start something when you have a full time job and working overtime. Because when you get home, you don't have the energy for you and what you want to do besides your job.
Right. Right. 100%. And I'm thinking right now, like how it is expensive to maintain an airplane, dude. Like you said,
Oh yeah,
you buy the airplane for a bunch of money, and then you're paying mechanics to fly around the world, to maintain your airplanes. Is just that's crazy. I mean,
yeah. To put it into perspective, if you buy a small, I guess $100,000 plane flies 4 or 5 people,
mhm.
you're going to be paying at least 10 to 15,000 a year on fuel and maintenance costs.
Wow. So
So you can buy a cheap, fairly cheap airplane, but then a lot of stuff you have to pay a licensed mechanic to do. You can't do it yourself because I mean, you can go buy yourself an S class and not take it to the dealership for oil changes and do it at home,
yeah,
and you're going to save money. I mean, oil changes aren't that expensive, but it all adds up.
yeah.
But if you're flying something like a Gulfstream, you're going to be paying millions a year in maintenance. I mean, it
Millions?
costs millions.
That's crazy. I mean,
If you know Grant Cardone,
yes. I've heard of that.
his
I've heard of that
airplane,
character.
that character, the Gulfstream he flies, it's $35,000 to refuel it. So start with that. On top of that, you're paying at least 4 million a year just in maintenance and hangar fees. You have to have two pilots on that airplane because you can't fly that airplane single pilot. Each pilot makes at least 200K a year. So it all adds up. I mean, a Gulfstream is like a Mercedes S class.
Yeah.
They lose value fast. So you can pick like a 1990s Gulfstream for $4 million compared to 70 million when it's new,
Uh-huh.
but you're going to be paying 4 to 5 million to maintain that airplane.
That's crazy. It almost makes no sense to buy an airplane, just rent one.
Yeah, and that's actually the smarter way. Is there's a lot of charter companies that you can charter airplanes.
Mhm.
I mean, they're definitely not something we can afford because if you want to charter an airplane from New York to LA that seats 8 to 10 people,
Mhm.
you're going to be paying over $20,000 one way.
That's crazy.
But you can do that versus owning one and you're only paying a few 100,000 a year to fly. Let's say you don't fly often.
Yeah.
You fly once a month, for business or whatever. And if the airplane breaks, you don't worry about it. They give you another airplane
Yeah.
because it's part of your rental agreement.
Yes, that's pretty
But when
cool.
it's your airplane, so I guess it all comes down to net worth. You know, for some people it's expensive to buy an S class. For some people it's cheap to buy a Gulfstream. So I mean, it's in aviation. I've met so much owners that like are insanely wealthy, and you would never know it. We had this one guy who bought a $42 million airplane,
Mhm.
and he's a farmer.
Wow. I mean, look, some people buy expensive airplanes, other people build their own rockets to go to the moon and to
Yeah,
Mars. So
yeah.
so
It's all what you want to do with your money.
yeah, which is crazy to me, but I think the potential for aviation is insane. Um First of all, just because so many people are flying, but then the next step that I'm thinking in my mind is if uh if if it becomes a reality, which it probably will, most likely, where people can fly rockets, they're going to need so much more. If rocket flying is going to become commercial, there's going to
Hmm.
be so many jobs out there for
Oh
for
yeah,
rocket engineers and mechanics and all that type of stuff. It's going to be crazy, dude.
Yeah, with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos with their space programs. Also, what's that guy? Oh, there we go. Forgot his name. The guy that's trying to do commercial space travel with Virgin. Oh,
Kevin,
man.
Kevin, I don't.
Richard Branson. Does that sound like it?
Nine. Nope.
Anyways, yeah, that guy's trying to do commercial space travel.
Mm-hmm.
Like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are trying to go to the moon and Mars.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is trying to make stuff that you can, instead of taking an airliner, you go into space, and that's going to be faster to go to the other side of the world.
Okay, you pretty
So
much just go up. The world turns and you go down.
I guess I'm not really sure how that stuff works with his company,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's definitely a lot of interest in space right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's a whole nother field, rocket engineering and the mechanic being a rocket mechanic. I bet there's a bunch of opportunities in that as well. Andre, I want to say thank you for sharing all this info. I'm sure there's going to be tons of questions under this video from people looking into that. So I'll be sending them your way if you don't see them. But another question I have is I know you're a day trader. I know, and
Oh,
share a couple tips, if you can. Why you got into that? What's going on there?
I'll start off with if you like abuse and stress and see how you handle yourself under stress, start trading with big sums of money or any money.
Yeah.
But being real, what got me into it is I was actually watching the show Billions,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this one episode where these guys started a company, and all of a sudden, the stock was, I think, at like $4 a share,
Mm-hmm.
nothing expensive. And next thing you know, it's at like $14 a share. And one of the guys was saying, I just made $500 million or something. I'm like, that's crazy. How does that even work? And then I learned how it all works, and that kind of got me into it.
Okay.
And it's just what also got me interested is I want to eventually get away from working a 9 to 5, and I don't have any ideas of starting businesses. So this was my way of, like, I guess, being
Mm-hmm.
self-employed. Right now, where I'm at, I'm basically just making enough money for some extra money on the side. Like, I'm nowhere near quitting my job yet. And even when I make enough money, let's say to double my income, I'm not going to leave because it's not guaranteed.
Right.
Because some days you can lose money. I mean, you don't have that at regular jobs. Like, you show up to work and they're like, "Oh man, I don't think you gave
We're not
100%.
gonna pay you,
You owe us 100."
or you're
Yeah,
gonna
like
pay
that's
us. Yeah.
oh yeah, even worse. Like, you're gonna pay us because you didn't meet this quota or whatever. So yeah, I'm slowly trying to learn, and I guess it's a struggle because a lot of the people right now, like, I'm not no expert day trader or anything, but a lot of people that make money in these meme stocks right
Mm-hmm.
now, and then try to tell you like, oh, I know what I'm doing with my money. It's like, no, you don't. You just took a gamble. Like, good for you. I mean, I'm happy for anybody that makes money, even if it's just luck.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy to make money. So if you happen to buy the correct stock
At the right
or
time.
cryptocurrency, yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm happy for you. I'm not jealous of people making money. But when they come and start telling me like, oh man, you don't know what you're doing. I just made 50K. I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's straight gambling what you're doing. I want to sustain. I want to have a steady income from day trading, not a one-time win.
Right.
Like, I'm not opposed to the one-time win,
Like you wouldn't be mad if you
but
became a millionaire all of a
no.
sudden.
Oh no, I've had that one time where my app thought I made like 30 grand, but it was a reverse split and my app
Uh
glitched.
huh.
So I didn't make or lose any money. It just thought I made 30 grand. So yeah, like, I'm not gonna lie, it's exciting
It
seeing
was an
that, but
emotional roller
like,
coaster, dude.
it was. And then when I found out I didn't, I'm like, this is lame. And at least I didn't lose money.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, my approach is I have a few individuals that I know, and they've been doing this for over 15 years. They're in their early 30s, and this isn't their only source of income, but it's a big source of their income. So it's a struggle,
Mm-hmm.
but the biggest and that's anything in life. Like, let's say you want to run 1,000 miles in a year. That sounds crazy, you know? But how many miles do you have to run a day in order to do that?
Right.
It eventually adds up. Same thing with like trading, you know, like I have friends that send me pictures. I made 8,000 today. I made 10,000, but then they're quiet about their losses because, you know, like Proverbs says, quick money doesn't last long.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. Like, you know, if you don't know how to use money just because you get it all of a sudden, you're not going to be successful. So with me, I'm trying to have small increments every day, even if it's $100 a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's nothing impressive, but it's like I made an extra $100 today that I didn't have yesterday.
Right, you're $100 further than you were. So
yeah, so that's my approach. My approach is not, you know, hit a home run every day because it's hard. I mean, there's plenty of stocks that move 50% in a day, but you can't catch them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at right now, kind of learning and trying and, you know, trying to control my emotions.
Yeah. I know,
it's definitely
especially
wild.
with all this, like every other YouTube video is like, buy all the Bitcoin. The next one is sell all your Bitcoin. The next one is buy all the Doge. The next one is sell all the Doge. It's crazy, dude. And then
my advice.
Go ahead.
My advice to anyone that's trying to trade anything, whether it's crypto. 1 second, my laptop's dying.
Mm-hmm.
My advice is anyone trying to trade crypto or any kind of, you know, commodity, is don't risk more than you're willing to lose. Like if you're gonna put 30,000 into trade, it better be the amount that you're not gonna cry over if you lose it. Like stop putting your life savings into stuff. Like I started with I think $500 or 1,000 and slowly grew it, and over time put more money in. But it's money that if I lose, like, yeah, I'll be upset because it's money. And yeah, like definitely would be upset, but I'm not going to all of a sudden lose, you know, my house or my car because, you know, this was my, you know, retirement money and all of a sudden it didn't work out. Now I'm broke.
Yeah.
Like the money I have in my account is to, in a sense, kind of use to try to make more money. But if I lose it, it's not going to affect my overall income.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Well, Andre, look, thank you so much for making time. I know you have 11 more days of time all to yourself, out in Sydney, and it's a horrible way to spend 2 weeks not being able to see anything. But at least I hope you have a charger and a bunch of outlets there because I'm sure you're using your technology. So
yeah, I'm trying to stay busy over here for sure.
Awesome. Again, thank you for coming on. Thank you for making time. People are going to have questions. I'll send them your way. If you guys have questions, like specific questions that maybe you want Andre to answer, and maybe we can like discuss in a longer format than just an answer below the video, just leave that there. And we can do that if that's necessary. Like, subscribe, share. We'll post Andre's contacts if you guys want to reach out directly to him. I don't know if he's active on any of the social medias.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. Glad we can finally set this up.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, man.
We tried to do this in person, but then I moved out to Texas, and now I'm out of country. So
yeah, we can't catch you, but I'm glad this happened. So I'm glad this happened.
Oh, for sure.
Alrighty, brother. Blessings to you. Stay safe. Have fun in Australia, and blessings to your family in Texas, man.
Thank you as well.
Brother. Take care.